Okay, here we go with more insight on the power grid issues. We are joined by KHOU's energy expert, Ed Hers. Boy, this is quite a discussion, Ed. Is ERCOT the political scapegoat here? Who else should be held accountable for this debacle?
Well, ERCOT's the convenient scapegoat, but ERCOT is the manager. It really has no enforcement authority, no ability to levy penalties, fines, no ability to make investments, no ability to make the rules and the regs. That's the Public Utility Commission, and that power comes from the legislature and the governor.
The Public Utility Commission has also resigned. ERCOT CEO is fired. How do you replace him? Who wants that job?
That's a great question. In Houston, we've been seeing the turnarounds of many oil companies that have failed recently. We're looking at these challenges. As one of my partners says, you pay the undertaker in cash up front. The board of ERCOT, the remaining members, are probably going to be in conflict with the new CEO because of the backward-looking blame game and the responsibilities, and the new CEO having to work to develop a go-forward plan that rebuilds the integrity of the grid and the trust that Texans need to have in grid management.
Absolutely. We definitely know that the state is working to try and prevent this from happening again. I think we will all say amen to that. Ed Hers, thank you so much. We appreciate you stopping by once again.